Jake wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway. It was 2 a.m., and the government research building was completely silent. He had been working as a janitor here for 3 years, but tonight felt different, somehow. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows on the white walls. He stopped at room B47, the same storage room he cleaned every Tuesday night. But as he unlocked the door, something strange happened. His cart bumped into the wall a little too hard, and he heard a soft clicking sound. Suddenly, a section of the wall swung inward like a hidden door. Jake stood there, mouth open, staring into complete darkness. His heart started beating faster. In all his years working here, he had never seen anything like this. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped inside, leaving his cart behind. The hidden room was much bigger than he expected. Strange machines lined the walls, covered in dust like they hadn't been used in months. Blue lights blinked on and off from various control panels. But what caught his attention was the large glass container in the center of the room. Inside that container was something that made Jake question everything he thought he knew about the world. A creature sat hunched in the corner of the glass. Prison. At first glance, Jake thought it might be some kind of strange animal, but then it looked up at him, and he saw intelligence in those unusual eyes. The being had grayish skin that seemed to shimmer under the dim lights. Instead of hair, thin, tentacle-like appendages moved slowly around its head. Its face was unlike anything Jake had ever seen, with features that seemed both frightening and somehow sad. Jake took a step back, his hands shaking. But the creature didn't try to attack or make any threatening moves. Instead, it placed one hand against the glass and tilted its head, watching him with what looked like curiosity. Then something impossible happened. Jake heard a voice inside his head speaking in perfect English. "Please don't run away. I know I must look terrifying to you, but I'm not here to hurt anyone." Jake nearly dropped his flashlight. "Did you just talk to me? In my head?" "Yes. My name is Zara. I'm sorry if this scares you, but telepathy is the only way I can communicate with your species. I've been trapped in here for so long." Jake looked around the room, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What is this place? How did you get here?" Zara's strange eyes seemed to fill with sadness. "I crashed on your planet several months ago. My ship was damaged during a long journey through space. Your government found me and brought me here. They've been studying me ever since." "You're an alien," Jake whispered, still trying to process everything. "Yes. I come from a world very far from here. My people call it Zenthari Prime. Was a princess there. But my planet is dying, and I was sent on a mission to find help." Jake moved closer to the glass container. Up close, he could see that Zara looked tired and weak. Her skin had lost some of its shimmer, and she moved slowly, like someone who had been sick for a long time. "Why were you sent here? What kind of help were you looking for?" Zara hesitated before answering. "My people are facing extinction. Our population has dropped dramatically over the past century. I was sent to find compatible beings who might help us continue our bloodline. I know it sounds strange to you, but it's the only way my species can survive." Jake felt a mix of confusion and sympathy. This creature, this princess from another world, was trapped and alone, fighting for her people's survival. Despite her frightening appearance, there was something in her voice that made him want to help. "How long have you been in there?" 4 months, 12 days, and approximately 6 hours. I've been counting." "Have they hurt you?" "Not exactly hurt, but they take samples of my blood and tissue every few days. They ask me questions through a computer translation system, but I can only give them basic answers that way. They don't know I can communicate telepathically with some species." Jake looked at the control panel next to the container. There were several buttons and switches, but everything was labeled in codes he didn't understand. Red warning lights blinked steadily, indicating the security system was active. "What about your ship? Can't you just go home?" My ship was too damaged in the crash. Even if I could repair it, I don't have the energy reserves needed for such a long journey. I'm getting weaker every day in this artificial environment. Jake felt something he hadn't expected. Anger. Not at Zara, but at the people who had imprisoned her. He had always thought the government research facility was working on boring stuff like new materials or computer technology. He never imagined they were keeping a living, intelligent being locked up like some kind of laboratory animal. "This isn't right," he said, more to himself than to Zara. "I understand why they're afraid of me. I must look like a monster to your people. On my own world, I'm considered quite unattractive as well. That's one reason why I was chosen for this mission. More beautiful members of my species were considered too valuable to risk on such a dangerous journey." Jake looked at Zara more carefully. Yes, she was definitely different from any human, but there was something about her that didn't seem monstrous at all. Maybe it was the sadness in her voice, or the way she held herself with dignity even while trapped. "I don't think you're a monster," Jake found himself saying. "You're very kind. Most beings who have seen me react with fear or disgust." An alarm suddenly started blaring in the distance. Jake's heart jumped into his throat. Someone must have noticed that he had been in one place too long, or maybe there were motion sensors in the hidden room. "They're coming," Zara said urgently. "You should leave before they find you here. If they discover you've seen me, they might detain you as well." But Jake didn't move. Something inside him rebelled against the idea of leaving this intelligent, being trapped and alone. He looked at the control panel again, this time with determination instead of confusion. "How do I get you out of there?" "What?" "No, you can't. It's too dangerous for you. Just tell me how." Zara stared at him for a moment, surprise clear in her unusual features. "The red button will disable the containment field, but it will also trigger every security alarm in the building. You'll have perhaps 2 minutes before guards arrive." Jake took a deep breath. He thought about his quiet, ordinary life. His small apartment, his routine job, his loneliness. Then he looked at Zara, a princess from another world who had traveled. Unimaginable distances only to end up trapped and forgotten. 2 minutes should be enough. Before he could change his mind, Jake pressed the red button. Immediately, the glass container made a hissing sound as the seal broke. The front panel slid upward, and Zara stepped out on unsteady legs. She was taller than Jake had expected, and even thinner than she had appeared in the container. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, as alarms began wailing throughout the building. "Because it's the right thing to do." Jake grabbed Zara's arm to help support her, surprised by how cold her skin felt. Together, they rushed toward the hidden entrance. Behind them, Jake could hear heavy footsteps and shouting voices getting closer. They made it to the main hallway, just as security guards rounded the corner at the far end. Jake quickly closed the hidden door and grabbed his cleaning cart, hoping it would look like he had been working normally. "This way," he whispered to Zara, guiding her toward the emergency exit he had always used during his breaks. The next few minutes were a blur of running, hiding, and desperately trying to reach Jake's old pickup truck in the parking lot. Zara moved surprisingly quickly once she got her strength back, and her strange appearance was partially hidden by the darkness. As they drove away from the facility, Jake kept checking his mirrors for signs of pursuit. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and he could hardly believe what he had just done. "Where are we going?" Zara asked from the passenger seat. "My apartment, I guess. It's not much, but it's the only safe place I can think of right now. You've risked everything to help me. I don't understand why." Jake glanced over at her, this strange being who had completely turned his world upside down in a single night. "Neither do I, really. But leaving you there just felt wrong." As they drove through the empty streets, Jake realized that his quiet, ordinary life was over. He had no idea what would happen next, but for the first time in years, he felt like he was doing something that actually mattered. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of the most extraordinary adventure of his life. Jake's hands were still shaking as he unlocked the door to his small apartment. He had never imagined he would be bringing an alien princess into his living room, but here he was, helping Zara step inside his modest home. The apartment wasn't much to look at. A tiny kitchen, a worn-out couch, a television that was at least 10 years old, and a single bedroom barely big enough for his bed. Jake suddenly felt embarrassed about how simple everything looked. "It's not fancy, but it's safe," he said, closing the door and turning 3 different locks. Zara looked around with curiosity, her unusual eyes taking in every detail. "It's warm, and it feels peaceful. I haven't felt peace in a very long time." She moved slowly to the couch and sat down carefully as if her legs might give out. Under the light of Jake's living room lamp, he could see just how exhausted she really was. Her grayish skin looked pale, and those tentacle-like appendages around her head moved weakly. "Are you okay? Do you need water or food or something?" "My, people don't consume the same substances as humans, but thank you for asking. Your kindness continues to surprise me." Jake sat in his old armchair across from her, still trying to wrap his head around everything that had happened. "So, you're really a princess from another planet?" "Yes. Though being a princess in my world isn't like the stories humans tell. I wasn't raised in luxury or pampered. My royal blood comes with heavy responsibilities, especially now that our species is dying. You mentioned that before. What's happening to your people?" Zara's expression grew sad. "For the past 100 years, fewer and fewer children have been born on our world. Our scientists discovered that our genetic diversity has become too limited. We need new genetic material to survive, or we'll be extinct within 2 generations." Jake leaned forward, genuinely interested. "That's why you came to Earth?" "Not just Earth. My people sent scouts to 12 different worlds where intelligent life exists. I was chosen for this mission because—" She paused, looking uncomfortable. "Because what?" "Because I'm considered unattractive by our standards. The more beautiful members of my species were deemed too valuable to risk on such dangerous journeys." Jake felt a surge of anger on her behalf. "That's terrible. Just because someone thinks you don't look right doesn't mean you're worth less." Zara looked at him with surprise. "You really mean that, don't you?" "Of course I do. Beauty is subjective anyway. What matters is who you are as a person. Or, well, as a being." For the first time since he had met her, Zara's face showed something. That looked like a smile. It was different from a human smile, but Jake could sense the warmth behind it. "This is why I knew you were special the moment I saw you," she said softly. "What do you mean?" "My people have an ability to sense genetic compatibility with other species. It's how we identify potential mates for our survival mission. When you entered that room tonight, I could immediately tell that you possessed the exact genetic markers we need." Jake's comfort level dropped several notches. "Wait, what are you saying exactly?" "I'm saying that you and I are biologically compatible. Our species could produce offspring together, which would help save my people from extinction." The room went very quiet. Jake stared at Zara, processing what she had just told him. "You're talking about having kids? Together?" "Yes. It's the purpose of my mission, to find suitable mates and convince them to help preserve our species." Jake stood up and started pacing around his small living room. This was way more complicated than just helping someone escape from prison. "Zara, I barely know you, and you're an alien. I mean, I like you as a person, but this is huge. I understand this is overwhelming, but please, let me explain our customs. In my culture, when we find a compatible mate, we begin what you might call a courtship period. We spend time together, learn about each other, and demonstrate our commitment." "Okay. That sounds more reasonable than just jumping into whatever this is." Zara stood up as well, though she swayed slightly. "Jake, I need you to understand something. My planet doesn't have much time left. Every day we delay means fewer chances for my people's survival. I don't want to pressure you, but I also can't pretend this isn't urgent. Before Jake could respond, his phone rang. The caller. ID showed his supervisor from the research facility. Don't answer it, Zara said quickly. They're probably checking to see if you know anything about my escape. Jake let it go to voicemail, but his stomach was churning with anxiety. They're going to figure out it was me. I was the only one in that part of the building tonight. I'm so sorry I've brought this danger into your life, but I promise you, if you help me, I'll make sure you're protected. How can you promise that? You don't even have a way to get home. Zara walked closer to him, and Jake noticed that despite her strange appearance, there was something graceful about the way she moved. My people aren't helpless. We have technology and abilities that your government doesn't understand. If I can make contact with other members of my species, we can find a way to keep you safe. Jake's phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. They're really looking for me, aren't they? Yes, and they won't stop until they find us both. Jake sank back into his armchair, feeling overwhelmed. A few hours ago, his biggest worry was whether he had enough milk for his morning cereal. Now he was a fugitive harboring an alien princess who wanted him to help save her entire species. What exactly would this courtship thing involve? He asked quietly. Zara's expression brightened with hope. In my culture, the potential mate demonstrates their worthiness through daily acts of commitment. I would present myself to you each morning and formally request your partnership. You would have the opportunity to learn about me, my world, and what a life together might look like. So you'd basically be proposing to me every day? In a sense, yes, though it's more complex than human marriage proposals. I would be asking you to consider joining not just with me, but with my mission to save my people. Jake rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. This is insane. I know it seems impossible. But Jake, in the few hours I've known you, you've shown me more kindness and respect than I received in months of captivity. You saw past my appearance and treated me like a person worth saving. That tells me you have the heart of someone who could understand our cause. There was a sound outside Jake's window that made them both freeze. Car doors slamming. Footsteps on the stairs leading to his apartment. They found us, Zara whispered. Jake's mind raced. He thought about his quiet life, his job that he'd probably already lost, and his small apartment that no longer felt safe. Then he looked at Zara, this strange being who had traveled across the galaxy only to end up trapped and alone. Is there a back way out of this building? She asked urgently. Yeah, through the fire escape in my bedroom. We need to go now. As they heard heavy footsteps on the stairs outside, Jake grabbed his jacket and wallet. But before they headed for the bedroom, Zara stopped him. Jake, I need to ask you something important. Will you at least consider my proposal? Not the marriage part, but just getting to know me, learning about my world and my people. Standing there in his living room, with government agents about to break down his door, Jake realized he had already made his choice the moment he freed her from that container. Ask me tomorrow morning, he said with a small smile. Isn't that how your courtship thing works? For the second time that night, Zara smiled. Yes, I'll ask you tomorrow morning. And every morning after that until you give me an answer. They could hear the agents reaching his floor now. Jake led Zara quickly toward his bedroom window, knowing that his old life was officially over. But as he helped her climb onto the fire escape, he found himself curious about what her daily proposals might sound like. And despite everything that was happening, that curiosity didn't feel entirely unwelcome. As they climbed down into the alley, behind his building, Jake wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life, or about to embark on the greatest adventure he could ever imagine. Either way, there was no turning back now. The old mountain cabin smelled like dust and pine wood. Jake pushed open the creaky door and helped Zara inside, both of them exhausted from 3 days of running and hiding. They had stolen moments of rest in empty parking lots and abandoned buildings, but this was the first real shelter they had found. "My uncle used to bring me here when I was a kid," Jake explained, flipping on a battery-powered lantern. "Nobody's used this place in years." Zara collapsed into a wooden chair, her breathing shallow and labored. Over the past few days, Jake had watched her grow weaker. Her grayish skin had become almost transparent, and those tentacle-like appendages around her head barely moved now. "You're getting sicker, aren't you?" Jake asked, kneeling beside her chair. "My body isn't designed for your planet's environment. The air, the gravity, even the light from your sun, it's all wrong for my species. I can survive here for a while, but not indefinitely." Jake felt a knot of worry in his stomach. In just a few days, this strange being had become important to him in ways he couldn't fully explain. "What do you need? How can I help?" "There's nothing you can do. My ship's medical systems could help, but..." She trailed off with a sad smile. "My ship is in pieces in some government warehouse." Jake started a small fire in the old stone fireplace, trying to make the cabin warmer. As the flames grew, Zara seemed to relax slightly. The orange light made her skin shimmer in a way that was actually quite beautiful. "Tell me about your home," Jake said, settling on the floor near her chair. "What's it like on your planet?" Zara closed her unusual eyes for a moment. "Would you like to see it? I can share my memories with you through our telepathic connection. It won't hurt you, I promise. You can do that? If you're willing. Close your eyes and try to clear your mind." Jake felt nervous but curious. He closed his eyes and tried to relax. Suddenly, images began flowing into his mind, but they weren't his own memories. He saw a world with 3 purple moons hanging in a star-filled sky, cities that looked like they were grown rather than built, with buildings that curved and twisted like living trees. The people of Zara's world moved gracefully through streets that glowed with soft, natural light. "It's incredible," Jake whispered, his eyes still closed. "This was the capital city where I lived." Zara's voice came both from beside him and inside his head. "My family's dwelling was in that tall spire you can see in the distance." The images shifted, and Jake saw the interior of what must have been Zara's home. Everything was smooth and organic-looking, as if the furniture and walls had been shaped by patient hands rather than machines. But he also noticed something sad about the scenes. Many of the rooms looked empty, unused. "There are so few of us left," Zara explained. "Families that once had dozens of members now have only 2 or 3. Children are so rare that when one is born, the entire community celebrates for weeks." Jake opened his eyes and looked at Zara. That must have been an incredibly lonely way to grow up. It was, and being considered unattractive made it even worse. While other young people my age were being courted and forming bonds, I spent my time studying our planet's history and learning about other worlds. Is that how you became qualified for this mission? Partly. But mostly I was chosen because no one on our world wanted to bond with me. I was expendable. Jake felt a surge of anger. "You're not expendable. You're brave and intelligent and kind. Your people are idiots if they can't see that." Zara looked at him with surprise. "You really believe that?" "Of course I do. Anyone who would send you on a dangerous mission just because they think you're not pretty enough doesn't deserve to have you as their princess." For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crackling of the fire. Then Zara spoke quietly. "Jake, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." "Okay. Are you staying with me because you want to, or because you feel sorry for me?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "At first, maybe it was mostly because I felt sorry for you. But now, I don't know. I like talking to you. I like learning about your world. And I hate the idea of you being alone and sick. But you're not attracted to me. How could you be? I know what I look like." Jake studied her face in the firelight. It was true that she didn't look human, but there was something about her that drew him in. Maybe it was the intelligence in her eyes, or the way she carried herself with dignity despite everything she had been through. "You want the truth? You're not ugly, Zara. You're just different, and different can be beautiful in its own way." Zara's tentacle-like appendages moved slightly, which Jake had learned meant she was feeling emotional. "In all my life, no one has ever said anything like that to me." "Then your people are missing out." The next morning, Jake woke up to find Zara standing by the cabin's small window looking out at the forest. She seemed steadier than she had the night before. "Good morning, Jake," she said without turning around. "Morning. How are you feeling?" Zara turned to face him, and Jake could see she had made some kind of decision. "I want to ask you something, and I need you to really think about your answer. Is this your daily proposal?" "Yes, but this time it's different. I'm not asking you to save my species or fulfill some mission. I'm asking if you would consider staying with me because you want to, not because you feel obligated." Jake sat up in his sleeping bag, surprised by the change in her approach. "What do you mean?" "I mean, would you be interested in getting to know me better? Not as a potential mate for some grand purpose, but just as me?" Before Jake could answer, they heard the sound of vehicles approaching the cabin, multiple engines moving fast up the mountain road. "How did they find us?" Jake asked, jumping to his feet. Zara moved away from the window quickly. "They must have tracking technology I wasn't aware of." Jake grabbed their small bag of supplies while Zara headed for the back door. But as they reached it, the door burst open and a man in black tactical gear stepped inside, pointing some kind of energy weapon at them. "Don't move," the man said in a cold voice. "Princess Zara, you're coming back with us. The human can choose to cooperate or be eliminated." Jake stepped in front of Zara without thinking. "You're not taking her anywhere." "Jake, no," Zara said urgently. "Don't put yourself in danger for me." But Jake stood his ground. "I'm not letting you go back to being a prisoner." The man in black raised his weapon, and Jake realized this might be the end of their strange journey together. But as he stood there, protecting someone who had become important to him in just a few short days, he knew he had found his answer to Zara's question. "Zara," he said quietly, not taking his eyes off the armed man. "Ask me again tomorrow. If we're both still alive, ask me again, and I'll give you a real answer." Behind him, he felt Zara's hand touch his shoulder gently. "I'll ask you every day, for the rest of my life if I have to." The man with the weapon stepped closer, but before he could speak, something unexpected happened. The cabin's windows began to glow with a strange blue light, and a low humming sound filled the air. "What is that?" the man demanded. Zara's grip on Jake's shoulder tightened. "That," she said with the first hint of hope he had heard in her voice for days, "is a rescue ship." Jake had no idea what was about to happen, but for the first time since this adventure began, he felt like they might actually have a chance. And more importantly, he realized that he wanted that chance more than anything he had ever wanted in his life. The blue light grew brighter, and Jake prepared himself for whatever came next, knowing that his answer to Zara's daily question was becoming clearer with every passing moment. The blue light from outside the cabin grew so bright that Jake had to shield his eyes. The humming sound became louder, shaking the old wooden walls. The government agent with the weapon looked confused and frightened, pointing his gun in different directions as if he didn't know what to shoot at. Suddenly, the front wall of the cabin simply vanished, dissolved into sparkling particles that drifted away like glitter. 3 figures stepped through the opening, and Jake's jaw dropped. They looked similar to Zara but different at the same time. Taller, with skin that shifted between silver and gold, and eyes that seemed to hold starlight. "Princess Zara," One of them said in accented English. "We have been searching for you." The government agent tried to raise his weapon, but it crumbled to dust in his hands. He turned and ran into the forest without looking back. "Commander Thax," Zara said, relief clear in her voice. "How did you find me?" "Your genetic signature led us here. But we don't have much time. Human military forces are mobilizing across this region." Jake stood there feeling completely out of place as the aliens spoke in their own language for a few moments. Finally, Zara turned to him. "Jake, these are members of my rescue team. They're here to take me to a safe location." "That's good," Jake said, though something in his chest felt heavy. "You'll be safe now." "There's something else," Commander Thax said, looking at Jake with curiosity. "Our ship detected something unusual about you, human. Your genetic patterns show compatibility markers that we haven't seen before." Zara explained quickly about Jake's genetic compatibility and everything that had happened since her escape. The other aliens listened with growing interest. "Fascinating," Thax said. "This could change everything for our mission." "What mission?" Jake asked. "We're not the only ship searching for genetic donors," Zara explained. "There are teams spread across multiple worlds looking for beings who could help save our species." One of the other aliens, a female with intricate markings on her face, stepped forward. "Human Jake, would you be willing to come with us? We have established a temporary base where several promising candidates are staying while we study the compatibility possibilities." "You mean other humans?" "Humans and beings from 3 other worlds, all genetically compatible with our species." Jake felt overwhelmed. This was so much bigger than just him and Zara. "Where is this base?" "Hidden beneath your planet's largest desert. We've been operating there for 6 months, completely undetected by your governments." Jake looked at Zara, trying to read her expression. "What do you think I should do?" Before she could answer, they heard helicopters approaching in the distance. The sound was getting closer fast. "We must leave now," Thax said urgently. "The humans have found our location." "Jake," Zara said quickly, "you don't have to come. You can stay here and try to return to your normal life." "What normal life? I'm a fugitive now. They'll never stop looking for me." "Then come with us," she said. "At least at the base, you'll be safe while you decide what you want to do." The helicopters were almost overhead now. Jake could see searchlights sweeping through the forest outside. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." The aliens led them toward their ship, which Jake couldn't see even though he knew it had to be there. As they walked, one of them waved a small device, and suddenly an enormous vessel appeared before them, shimmering into visibility like it had been hiding behind an invisible curtain. Inside the ship, Jake felt like he had stepped into a living organism. The walls curved and pulsed gently, and everything was bathed in soft, warm light. Zara helped him into a chair that somehow molded itself to fit his body perfectly. "How long will it take to get to this base?" Jake asked as the ship lifted off silently. "Approximately 4 hours in your time measurement," Thax replied. As they flew, Zara showed Jake more of her memories, this time of the rescue mission and the other worlds her people had visited. He saw beings that looked almost human but with subtle differences, and others that were completely alien but still somehow familiar. "All of these species are compatible with yours?" Jake asked. "To varying degrees, but your species shows the highest compatibility we've discovered. That's why Earth was prioritized." "How many humans have agreed to help?" Zara hesitated. "So far, only 3. Most humans who learn about our situation become frightened and refuse to participate." Jake understood why. The idea of leaving everything you knew to help save an alien species was terrifying. But as he looked at Zara, he realized something had changed inside him over the past few days. What happens if not enough people agree to help? "Then our species dies out within 2 generations," she said simply. The weight of that statement hung in the air between them. Jake tried to imagine an entire civilization just ending. All their knowledge, their culture, their dreams for the future, just gone. When they arrived at the underground base, Jake was amazed by its size. It was like a small city carved out, of rock, with tunnels and chambers extending in every direction. Soft bioluminescent lights provided illumination, and the air felt clean and fresh despite being underground. Thax led them to a common area where Jake met the other humans who had agreed to help. There was David, a doctor from Canada, who had lost his family in an accident and felt he had nothing left to lose. Lisa was a teacher from Australia who had always dreamed of space travel, and Ben was a farmer from Kansas who said he wanted to do something important with his life. "So you all just decided to help save an alien species?" Jake asked over dinner in the base's eating area. "It's not that simple," David said. "We're not just helping them. We're potentially becoming part of something bigger than any of us could imagine alone." Lisa nodded. "When you see how advanced their technology is, how peaceful their society is, it makes you want to be part of it. But what about Earth? What about your human lives?" "What about them?" Ben asked. "I was growing corn in the same fields my grandfather did. Don't get me wrong, it was a good life, but this could help two species survive and grow together." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked through the quiet corridors of the base, thinking about everything he had learned. In a small observation room, he found Zara looking up through a transparent ceiling at the stars above the desert. "Can't sleep either?" he asked, sitting beside her. "I'm thinking about home, about my people waiting for news that might never come. What would happen if I said yes? If I agreed to be part of this?" Zara turned to look at him. "Honestly, I don't know. The science is still being developed. It might mean traveling to our world. It might mean staying here and helping establish a colony. Or it might mean something we haven't thought of yet. And what would happen between us? I mean, personally, I would like to find out," she said softly. "But Jake, I need you to know something. I'm not going to ask you anymore. No more daily proposals." "Why not?" "Because I realize now that what I want isn't just a mate to help save my species. I want a partner who chooses to be with me because they want to be with me, and that has to be your decision, made freely, without pressure." Jake looked up at the stars, thinking about his old life as a janitor in a research facility. Then he thought about the past week, about adventure and danger and discovery, about meeting someone who made him want to be braver than he had ever been. "Ask me one more time," he said. "What?" "Your daily proposal. Ask me one more time." Zara smiled, that alien expression that Jake had grown to love. "Jake Martinez, will you consider joining your life with mine? Not just to save my species, but because you want to see what we could build together?" Jake looked at her strange, beautiful face in the starlight. He thought about all the reasons this was crazy, all the ways it could go wrong. Then he thought about how empty his life had felt before he met her, and how full of possibility it felt now. "Yes," he said. "My answer is yes." Above them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself approved of their decision. 5 years had passed since Jake first said yes to Zara's proposal in that underground base. Now, standing on the observation deck of their new home, he could hardly believe how much his life had changed. The space station orbited between Earth and Zara's homeworld, serving as a bridge between the two civilizations. Through the massive windows, Jake could see both planets in the distance. Earth, blue and familiar, and Xanthari Prime, purple and mysterious, slowly healing from the environmental damage that had nearly destroyed it. The morning supply ship. "From Earth just arrived," Zara said, walking up beside him. She looked healthier than ever, her grayish skin now having a warm, silvery glow. The tentacle-like appendages around her head moved with gentle, happy motions. Any news from home? Jake asked, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. David sent a message. The new hospital on Zenthari Prime is almost finished. He says the combination of human and Zenthari medical knowledge is creating treatments they never imagined possible. Jake smiled, thinking about his friend who had become the lead doctor for their joint colony project. It had taken 2 years of careful planning and scientific study, but they had finally proven that humans and Zenthari could not only live together, but actually help each other thrive. What about the kids? They're in the learning center with Teacher Lynn. Today they're studying Earth history and Zenthari mathematics at the same time. Jake shook his head in amazement. When the first human Zenthari children had been born 3 years ago, everyone had been nervous about how they would develop. But the kids were incredible. They could communicate telepathically like their Zenthari parents, while also having the adaptability and creativity that humans were known for. Speaking of the children, Zara said with a mischievous smile, little Tommy asked me an interesting question yesterday. What did he ask? He wanted to know why his Uncle Jake and Aunt Zara aren't married yet, when all the other grown-ups in the colony are. Jake laughed. Tommy was the son of Ben, the farmer from Kansas who had become their agricultural specialist. The boy had a way of asking questions that made all the adults think. What did you tell him? I told him that some people take longer to make important decisions than others. Jake turned to face Zara fully. Over the years, their relationship had grown slowly and naturally. They had faced challenges that would have broken most couples, learning to communicate across species barriers, dealing with the pressure of helping, to save an entire civilization, and figuring out how to blend their very different cultures. You know, Jake said thoughtfully, I've been thinking about that myself lately. About what? About making it official, about actually getting married, in both human and Zenthari traditions. Zara's eyes widened with surprise and joy. Are you serious? Dead serious. I love you, Zara, not because of our genetic compatibility or because I wanted to save your species. I love you because you're brave and kind and smart, and because you make me want to be a better person every single day. Zara's tentacle-like appendages moved rapidly with excitement. Jake Martinez, are you proposing to me? I guess I am. Though, it's funny, considering you spent months proposing to me first. This is different, Zara said, moving closer to him. This is us choosing each other, not because we have to, but because we want to. So what do you say? Will you marry me? Yes, Zara said without hesitation. Yes, of course, yes. They kissed, which had taken some getting used to given their different physiologies, but they had figured it out. Everything around them, the space station, the 2 worlds visible through the windows, the future they were building together, us felt perfect in that moment. There's something else, Jake said when they broke apart. I've been talking with Commander Thax about the new exploration mission. The one to the outer systems. Yeah, they want to send a joint human-Zenthari team to make contact with 3 more species that might need help. They asked if we'd be interested in leading the mission. Zara looked surprised. Both of us? Both of us. Apparently, we've become something of a success story. The first human-Zenthari partnership that worked out. They think other species might be more willing to trust a mixed team. It would mean leaving the station for at least 2 years. I know. And I know how much. This place means to you. We've built something amazing here. Zara looked out at the 2 worlds they called home, then back at Jake. Do you want to go? Part of me does. I keep thinking about other species out there who might be facing extinction, like your people were. If we could help them the way we helped the Zenthari, it would be dangerous. Unknown worlds, unknown species. It would be. But we'd be together. And we've gotten pretty good at handling the impossible. Zara was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then she smiled that beautiful, alien smile that Jake had fallen in love with. Okay, she said. Let's do it. Really? Really? But I have one condition. What's that? We get married first. I want to start this new adventure as your wife, not just your partner." Jake grinned. "Deal." 6 months later, Jake stood in the Yaedai station's main ceremonial hall, wearing a combination of human formal wear and Zenthari ceremonial robes. The room was packed with beings from both worlds, humans who had become part of the colony, Zenthari who had traveled from their home planet, and the mixed children who represented the future of both species. When Zara walked down the aisle, Jake's breath caught in his throat. She wore traditional Zenthari wedding attire that shimmered like starlight, but she had also braided small earth flowers into the appendages around her head. She looked absolutely stunning. The ceremony was conducted in both languages, with vows that promised partnership not just between two individuals but between two ways of life. When they exchanged rings, a human tradition that the Zenthari had, adopted with enthusiasm, Jake felt like his heart might burst with happiness. "You may now kiss your bride," the officiator said, and Jake did to the cheers of everyone present. At the reception afterward, as they danced to music that blended human melodies with Zenthari harmonies, Zara leaned close to Jake's ear. "I have something to tell you," she whispered. "What's that?" "I'm going to start asking you something new every morning." "Oh no," Jake said with mock horror. "What now?" "I'm going to ask you what adventure we should have that day, because I've realized that's what I love most about being with you. Every day is a new adventure." Jake spun her around, laughing. "Ask me tomorrow morning, and every morning after that." As they danced under lights that looked like stars, surrounded by friends from two different worlds, Jake thought about how his life had started as a simple janitor who just wanted to help someone in trouble. Now he was married to an alien princess, living in space, and about to embark on a mission to help save other species across the galaxy. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was the life he had chosen. And he couldn't imagine wanting any. The next morning, Zara woke him up with her new daily question. "What adventure should we have today, husband?" And Jake, looking at his beautiful alien wife in the soft light of their new shared quarters, smiled and said, "Let's save the universe, one species at a time." It wasn't a small dream, but then again, nothing about their love story had ever been small, and that was exactly how they both liked it.